Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. And I think we're going to get started now. My name is Cumbri, and I'm part of the team here at Oxford College of Technology. And just a bit of housekeeping. I'd just like to note that this webinar is being recorded. Today, we've got a really interesting webinar hosted by Robin McMillan. And it is regarding bridging the AI skills gap, um, confidence, clarity, and what to do next. So, Robin, I'll hand over to you now.
Well, thank you so much. If anyone has been to any of my sessions at the AI Exchange that happen every 2 Mondays in the month, please talk to me. If you've got any questions, we only have this hour together to cover this pretty expansive topic. So I would rather make sure that you get all of your answers answered within that kind of session. And if I don't pick up your question, my lovely co-host will also make sure that I answer all of those before the end, in case I get carried away in, as I often do. So today we're going to be talking about this AI skills gap, and this is no longer optional for ourselves and for leadership. And why? Why is that? And that is because if you look at kind of the state of AI research, the things that we are being kind of showcased at the moment, the kind of big LinkedIn posts, the content that we are asked to download every 2 seconds within our email kind of boxes, is that this AI wave is no longer on its way. It's actually hit us like a tsunami now. It's already reshaped how businesses run, and more than 2/3 of organizations say that we're using AI in some sort of capacity. It's no longer this kind of futuristic idea. It's no longer sat within pilots within organizations. It's built into our everyday operations. Microsoft, Google, many of our CRMs, they now have AI layers that are making decisions for us that we are interacting with every day. And this big shift that has already happened, the real question that is kind of facing us as leadership and as individuals is it isn't no longer should we use AI? It's are we leading our teams through this in a way that creates value and protects the business? That is a huge difference compared to a couple of years ago, where we were deciding if we should allow our teams to have access to Gemini. It's a very different mentality that we're sitting within at the moment. And this is actually where most organizations and individuals were starting to struggle. This clear pattern where use is rising. So we are using more and more AI technology, but our impact by using that technology is actually really inconsistent. Not because the technology isn't ready, isn't available, isn't integrated, but because skills, leadership, courage, clarity, confidence, they aren't actually keeping pace. We're holding ourselves back. So that's the theme of today. So AI can unlock something that is called super agency, where individuals are able to operate faster, smarter, more creatively with the support of these magic tools. But this doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen because you have access to an AI tool or you integrate AI into a platform you've already been using. It actually shows up when leaders understand the technology well enough and we understand how that use of that technology is going to impact us over time, and we can guide individuals. We can ask better questions and we can set direction. So, this session is designed to help us think about that. We're going to look at those skills gap from kind of both sides, how we can build confidence. We're going to look at the AI maturity model and how we move through that, and also how we can empower ourselves and our teams to actually use this technology in a way that is actually going to benefit us rather than just using it for AI's sake and because it all of a sudden has kind of created this whirlwind of access that we haven't had before, and we weren't really prepared for it either. So if I give you some statistics from the latest kind of McKinsey AI research, this helps me to tell you a more nuanced story. Yeah, rather than this kind of hyperbolation that we're seeing from the headlines, because AI usage is now widespread. Yeah, nearly 9 out of 10 organizations know that they are using AI in some part of their business. Now, on paper, that looks magic. That looks like true transformation, that we have taken this technology and we have started to really utilize it. But when we look closer, far fewer are actually seeing meaningful impact on things like revenue, productivity, or cost. So we know that adoption is common, but tangible value is not currently. So simply having AI somewhere in your stack is no longer a signal of, let's call it, competitive advantage. Yeah. So the difference obviously is lying in how organizations are approaching that integration. And the companies generating measurable results are not just layering tools into your existing systems. Yeah. These organizations are redesigning workflows, changing responsibility, and treating AI within a strategic leadership priority rather than what a lot of us are still doing as a technical experiment. And yet, if I give you some more statistics here, only 1 in 5 organizations have actually changed how work gets done when using AI. So most have bolted AI onto some sort of legacy process and hoped for acceleration or better productivity. But this kind of layering only causes friction, which is why, even though most of us are using AI internally, we're not seeing any benefit. It's actually taking more time, it's taking more training, it's causing more bottlenecks. There's also this growing tension around scale. So, if we look at advanced AI capabilities, such as AI agents, this is expanding quickly. If you think about now that we don't just have to prompt back and forth, these agents can complete a whole project and bring us back a output. It's truly wonderful. But the governance and operational disciplines required to safely deploy them, they're not keeping pace. Who here, you don't have to tell me, but this could maybe be a rhetorical question. Who here has used AI within a workplace setting or their own organization without truly understanding the governance or needs of governance for that AI technology? Don't worry, you're not alone. It will be 95% of this group. And many organizations acknowledge that they are not consistently applying these kind of principles, this necessity, this governance. And these early consequences are truly visible. Inconsistent outputs, switching AI technology every time something new comes out onto the market, privacy concerns, intellectual property risk. And that is because we have allowed this leak of adoption without truly understanding what the technology does, why we're implementing it, and what it is going to do to make our lives better within our organizations. We just got carried away, and that's okay. We all have. But now we have to come back to that kind of starting point. So AI itself is no longer what makes you more interesting or is the key differentiator that you can talk about anymore. Actually, leadership capability is and self-awareness. And the organizations where we can come out of this experimentation phase that we're really entrenched in, that is actually where we will see a sustained advantage of using AI. So there are some biggest barriers. Has anyone kind of faced any true barriers to AI integration or personal AI use? You can let me know in the chat if you'd like. And traditionally, when a new piece of technology is introduced into the workforce, What do you think is the initial biggest barrier? What do you think the biggest resistance is when it comes to any new technology? I promise there's no wrong answer when it comes to my sessions, but I'll give you this one as long as you start answering my questions later on. And it is actually employee resistance, fear of change. Absolutely. And that actually isn't the problem here because this technology has not only seeped into our work life. My mum uses ChatGPT she tells him what is left in her fridge and he like responds back to her what she can cook that evening. She has a name for ChatGPT. She says please and thank you. We are actually more used to using AI technology on a personal level than we are in AI kind of integration into the corporate kind of world, which is very different to normal kind of like technology advancement. The actual problem here, yeah, yeah, the change in general in processes, people, reluctance to change, yeah, we are set in our ways. But actually, the problem here is leadership hesitancy and the skill gap because we are unsure of how this technology actually works and what this technology is doing within our processes. So if I give you some more statistics that you can kind of go away and have a look at, there's a great kind of piece by McKinsey and Deloitte, which both highlight this same pattern. So adoption isn't stalling because individuals are afraid of technology, not this technology, not AI. It's stalling because leaders don't feel confident or feel the need to set direction, communicate expectations, or create the conditions for that AI tech, that AI integration, that new AI process, that shiny new platform to actually be used effectively. So, nearly half of leaders say their organizational kind of workflows are missing AI expertise. Their C suite doesn't have AI expertise. So they don't feel equipped to guide teams or make decisions about where AI actually fits. Because in reality, these individuals do not have that knowledge. They are not accessing that knowledge and they're not upskilling themselves to be able to make these decisions confidently. Yeah. And at the same time, almost half of employees say that they would use AI more if they were given proper training and support. So you can see that there's a juxtaposition already. Leadership isn't aware of what this technology can do or where it sits or what it could fix. Employees are excited and want to integrate more, but they can't because there's not the access and there's not the training. So that's a big gap there that we've got to fix. Yeah. At at the moment, so at the end of kind of January, I know I've done February, but the data was only up until the end of January. 1 in 5 employees in the UK say that they have received some sort of AI training. 1 in 5. Yet we have integrated AI as though it is just something that we have to do now within organizations have bought licenses to ChatGPT. They have allowed access to Gemini. They have allowed access to the AI suite within Microsoft without giving formal training. But 2/3 of those individuals believe that they want to develop their AI skills because it will advance their career. Again, a gap, a huge gap in want, accessibility to training, and the skills necessary to use that technology incredibly powerfully. The willingness is there, the enthusiasm is there. There's just this like miscommunication between leadership and actually what is going on. And leadership clarity needs to turn that enthusiasm into actual capability. Yeah. And even though I'm talking about this from an organizational point of view, you can also ask yourself these questions. Do I know how ChatGPT works? Do I know what happens to that information I put into ChatGPT? Do I know the capability of how this AI technology works? And if that skill gap is apparent within yourself, when we bring that uncertainty into our leadership as well, we kind of square root that. We cause twice as much problem. Yeah, so we can also look at our own skill gap as well as our organizations. So employees, they're ready for AI. Leaders are the ones who feel unprepared. And when leadership hesitates, that uncertainty cascades. We know that. That feeling comes through that entire organization. One interesting thing that I want to bring in here is the perception gap. So only 20% of executives expect high AI usage among staff, but over 60% of employees say they are already using AI. So what does that mean? AI is being used in an unregulated way within organizations, which also causes a problem that's called shadow AI, if you want to go and have a research of that. Employees are adding company data into their own licenses because the organizations are not giving them access to AI technology that they expect or they want. So, do you recognize any of these issues within organizations that you've worked within? Is there kind of one barrier that you feel that you embody? Like, do you feel that you have an uncertainty about this technology? Do you think it's more of a skills or a mindset problem? Do you think more communication or training? There's no wrong answers here, but just looking at kind of what the biggest barriers are, which are totally backwards to any other kind of technology integration that we have kind of gone through. What are you feeling when we talk about this? Yeah, you've got no data governance for AI. It really should be there because realistically, these technologies are making decisions that you are then integrating into organizations. So how are we gonna how are we gonna fix it? Because you're gonna be like, Robin, that was a bit of a downer for the first bit of this session today. But actually, we need to know where we're at so we can move forward. Yeah, I always want to make sure that you have all the foundational knowledge. So everything that we talk about, you can implement in a way where you have true understanding of the why. So what I want to talk to you about is something called super agency. Yeah, so super agency is not automation for its own sake. What I want you to think of this word as a step. It's a change in human capability. Yeah. So super agency for an individual is what happens when we allow AI to remove the cognitive drag from work. It doesn't replace the expertise. AI does not replace experience or expertise. It actually clears space for it. So McKinsey describes it as the ability to work faster, make better decisions, and operate more creatively because AI is handling that heavy lifting that used to consume time and attention. So think of it as moving from hand tools to power tools. Yeah, if that makes it easier for you to understand what super agency alongside AI looks like. The craft person is the same, but the output changes dramatically. We can do more, we can create, we can iterate quicker. So it does first show up in speed. So when we start to use AI to support us in things like research, analysis, forecasting, and synthesis, those things once took hours. They can now happen in minutes, and momentum replaces bottlenecks, sorry. And it also shows up in decision quality. So AI starts to surface patterns, risks, and scenarios that would be impossible to map manually at scale. Leaders, individuals, we're not diminished by this. We are actually allowing ourselves to be better informed. This is where a lot of the fear of AI replacing jobs comes from. But actually, allowing AI to do the grunt work gives us more space to be creative, to create, to develop things that we didn't have the time for before. It shows up in customer insight and automation. So large volumes of behavioral data can be translated into meaningful signals, while repetitive, low value tasks are handled reliably in the background. Time and attention are redirected to higher impact, and it also shows up in creativity. Imagine if you let go, you shed all of those admin tasks that you look on your to-do list and you're like, ugh, and you have to like motivate yourself to get through in the day. Imagine if these systems could pick that up and you could truly flourish in your expertise and your experience to develop X, Y, and Z. That is what this technology is really great at. It's really great at the data processing, the synthesis, the summarization, and we should be handing that over to this technology. So, super agency is not actually a technical feature. AI doesn't just give you super agency as an individual. It's actually where we unlock this capability by using this technology intelligently. And that is a skills gap that we are currently seeing. And it only flourishes where leadership deliberately create those kind of conditions within organizations. And we allow ourselves that difference, that choice to actually be like, okay, I don't like going through all of my meetings. I want something to summarize it for me. I want something to put it naturally into my to-do list. And then I want to put it in my project management software. Allow the system to do that so you can begin working on that to-do list. Yeah, that is super agency, using technology intelligently to improve your own working conditions. So let me ground that in a few examples. And hopefully, some of you will see yourself within these things that I kind of see. So, super agency becomes clear when we start to see it in action. So, in healthcare, clinicians spending hours writing notes after appointments, AI assisted documentations, transcribed and structured consultants automatically, turning hours of admin into minutes of review. The result was more patient time, not fewer clinicians, because we often believe that if we do something quicker, we will be replaced, but actually allows us to do our job better. Yeah. In manufacturing, production planning relied on manual spreadsheets, 10,000 million different versions of an Excel spreadsheet spread across a team. And a lot of the time in manufacturing, reactions can be kind of not chilled. They're very reactive, the decisions that happen in that world. Whereas AI models can analyze demand and inventory in real time, shortening planning cycles, reducing disruption. Managers move from kind of firefighting to forward planning. Of course, that's where we want to be. We don't want to be in fight or flight within our whole day. We want a system to be able to tell us what is going to happen, what is probably going to happen, and what we can do to mitigate that. In professional services, and analyzing kind of information where we get buried in research, slide preparation. Whereas if we shift to an AI generated first draft analysis and summary, this cuts preparation time significantly. Consultants spend more time refining insight and advising clients or onboarding more clients, making more money. Yeah. In retail, customer support teams face constant backlogs. AI triage, categorize, and summarize tickets before agents pick them up. The response times can improve and the backlog quickly can be reduced. So, different sectors, different workflows, but the same pattern. We're removing that friction to increase capacity, strengthen human judgment. That is super agency in practice. Yeah. And super agency is what we should be looking to create when it comes to using this type of technology. But there is the leadership blind spot. Yeah. Teams want to use AI. What holds them back is this fear and resistance from upper levels. Only 13% of enterprises achieve meaningful integration of AI at the moment. So leadership is going to be slightly nervous. Yeah, we are going to be nervous if only 13% of our AI pilots actually make a difference. Are we automatically going to assume that that's because that we don't have the knowledge or that the technology isn't good enough? What do you think the automatic assumption is? That technology is not good enough. So this is misalignment again. So I want you to take away as one of the key things today is that the biggest barrier is not AI. It is not this technology. It's the belief that technology alone creates transformation and impact and positive change. Real progress actually starts to happen when leaders build conviction, unify direction, and adopt governance. Got to adopt governance, yeah? And champion a model where human judgment and AI coexist and reinforce one another. Yeah. So how confident are you in this room with me today about AI adoption? Are you very confident? Are you cautious? Are you not confident at all? What's your kind of feelings about AI use? Well, it could be from a leadership or a management level. I don't mind. I'm just going to answer this very quickly by Cecilia. Do you have any concerns that in using AI to help with more administrative stress that we will also, particularly at more junior, lose the ability to develop skills and communication insights? I can't use the AI to help. We will not be able to once you understand how AI works, and it is realistically just a probability matrix, the person using it and the data that it is given is the way that we create good outputs. So we are at the moment, I don't know what AI is going to turn into. We've all seen those kind of movies, but we are nowhere near that. Yeah. Like if I tell you how ChatGPT works, it takes your sentence, it turns it into its own language, it takes the context of what you asked and gives you the most probable outcome. That is not experience, that is not expertise. That is why you end up with loads of LinkedIn posts with rocket emojis saying hype, because that is the most probable answer. Yeah. So, no, I don't think so. But what needs to happen is this leadership change. So, we need to develop these junior roles to coexist with AI use and to have different skills when it comes to those kind of things. Cautious because leadership here are very reluctant to adopt it. Confident adopt, but it's knowing where to start. Yeah, absolutely. Cautious, but somewhat kind of confident, perhaps worried about customer assumption. Yeah. So there's a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of fear. And a lot of that fear is coming from uncertainty, I would say, of how to move forward or how to check where we are now. Yeah. Is that the kind of feeling that you guys are kind of experiencing as I talk about this? And you can kind of see in the data that we have pulled through. And what I want to talk to you now about is something called the AI maturity model. Now, you are going to be able, after we've gone through this, to see where you are at. And also, I'm going to give you the way that you move forward in this model. After we've gone through the model, I'll give you a 90-day plan of how you can truly start to move within this model because we are all stuck. We are stuck here. Some of us are here, but realistically, to move forward, we've got to make some big changes. So that's what we're going to talk through now. So this model gives leaders, give organizations something that most AI conversations actually lack, and that is sequence and structure. At the moment, we are stuck in this wonderful world where we are integrating AI, but not really knowing how to track it, understand it, or move it forward. Yeah, we're just doing it because everybody is doing it. And that is okay. But we have to move forward now. We've got to make a change, or else we're still going to be lagging behind those that do. And what this does is it replaces scattered experimentation with a clear pathway for building capability over time. So rather than chasing isolated pilots or reacting to the latest tool release, because we do have shiny AI kind of magpie syndrome, where something new comes out, Apple says that they do it or they've got their own version of it, and we feel we have to, we're going to have to start letting that go. Yeah, we're going to have to start understanding if that technology is right. So each stage in this represents more than technical adoption. It reflects a shift. So the shift that happens as we move through these kind of sections here is a shift in mindset, skill depth, governance discipline, and operating rhythm. Yeah. So as we move forward, things like workflows change, accountability becomes clearer, and leadership involvement becomes more deliberate. Yeah, so this is what this model is going to allow you to kind of work with and do. So we're going to start here. Yeah. So we're sat in awareness. So if we were in a board meeting in the awareness stage of an organization, AI is on the agenda. We throw it in. We sprinkle it on like confetti in a cake. We know it's important. It's just got no substance for us yet. And it's not actually embedded in how we operate. So we're asking early questions. We're asking, is it relevant? We're probably talking about competitive pressure. Yeah. Teams are curious. Small experiments start to appear. You may get an AI workforce. I've seen quite a lot of that happening, but there is no shared direction, no prioritized roadmap, and it is inconsistent, and there's no governance standards. AI feels promising. We have like an eyebrow lift when we talk about AI. We're like, ooh, like that could be good, but it's undefined. We can't tell you why or the what yet. So we have things like at this point, individuals testing tools. There's not much structure. Exploration is happening, but it is fragmented. There's risks here though. We start to hear if we don't have structures in place, start mistaking curiosity for capability. Yeah. Organizations may overhype potential in internal comms, underestimate prerequisites, or ignore weak data and processes because AI is only as good as the data it is trained on and the data we feed it. And enthusiasm can create noise instead of progress. So we're all of a sudden excited we're going to get access to a paid version of ChatGPT. And then we get it. And then we put in a load of like sensitive data without setting up our own settings. And all of a sudden that data is training ChatGPT. And oh, I don't know if any of you heard the poor junior developer at Samsung. He put in all of his early code and literally then Nokia just decided to have a look and a play, and they could be like at that point, what is Samsung doing? And all of that code came through because he didn't set up his data security properly. So I want you to move out of this. We don't want to chill here for long. This is this is a necessary part of our AI maturity use. But I want you to move forward. So we must start to create clarity and accountability. We need to define the real business problems that AI could support. I want you to agree minimum data and governance standards. I want you to appoint people, give somebody this responsibility. And I want you to establish clear boundaries for responsible exploration. Is it okay for people to use their own personal licenses? Probably not. Yeah. So we need to start putting in boundaries and constraints. You can run a quick readiness baseline. So look at your data, your current workflows, your current governance. Select 2 or 3 real operational problems with measurable outcomes. Define your success metrics and guardrails upfront, not after, and communicate clearly that structured experimentation is supported. So we end awareness when exploration becomes intentional. So now we get to graduate. Yeah. So now we're in active. Yeah. So if you imagine that this is like Strava or like some like kind of thing, we go to the gym more than once a week now. Yeah. We're locked in. So this is where we get from curiosity to coordinated action. So at this stage, we stop having interest, we have structure. Leaders actively sponsor defined pilots. Teams stop testing tools in isolation and they start becoming part of real workflows. And we have clear objectives and guardrails. We start to do things systematically. What is delivering value? What fails? What do we need to redesign? It's no longer theoretical. It's actually visible. It's actually operationally visible. Yeah. In your CRM, you use AI kind of agent lead scoring, which then impacts the kind of people that you decide who to contact first or how you contact them. It's visible, it's tangible. We can measure its use from the data we now get compared to what we had. So, but there are risks here. There could be too many little things going on, too little coordination, experiments launched in kind of low impact areas, which don't have much data or much relevance anyway. We have weak evaluation criteria. And without discipline, this experimentation can create busyness instead of actual use. Yeah, we can mistake being busy for this kind of tech to being actually useful. So to move forward, we're going to have to start identifying repeatable patterns from successful pilots, demonstrate measurable business benefit, decide what to stop, refine, or scale. Now, I want us to move on. Yeah, I want us to move on again. So we now need to start documenting repeatable workflows, tools, and standards. We need to strengthen governance and quality controls, and we need to formalize roles and accountability for AI-enabled work. So the active stage succeeds when experimentation turns into repeatable capability. You cannot move forward here if you cannot replicate your AI process again and again in the same way and get good results. Yeah. So that's a key thing here. That's why we get stuck. Because we know that AI is doing some sort of good, but if we're not measuring it, we can't repeat it, we can't move forward. We're getting stuck here quite a lot. So then we move on to the operational stage. So AI is no longer kind of an issue here. And the way that we move forward, this is quite a quick stage, I would say. From level 1 to level 2 takes time, 2 to 3 takes time, but 3 to 4, because we're starting to see tangible results, we can move forward a little quicker here. So what I want you to do here is this is where AI is now embedded in your training, in employee use, in the way that you report and talk about things that are happening within your business. And we move forward here by kind of linking AI outputs to revenue planning. So instead of just seeing the impact of AI right now, we're deciding how AI can help us in the future. Yeah. And we're starting to implement role-based enablement. Very bluntly, this could be an AI manager, but I'm sure you can think of a better term or integrate it into a current role. And I want you to now start to introduce ways for your teams to change these AI workflows. So how are we able to give feedback and iteration? That's the only way we can move out of operational. So now we're sat in systematic, and this is kind of strategic. So this is now embedding AI into how the organization thinks. So we're using it to model scenarios, test trade-offs with things like synthetic audiences, forecast outcomes, evaluate strategic options. It's an added layer of analysis and iteration that we naturally turn to make decisions. Yeah. It's informing direction. It's predictive in things like forecasting your quarterly and your annual planning, but there are risks here. So with greater influence by this technology comes greater exposure. So if you're not able to have the skill set or the experience to understand things like model drift, or where different aspects can impact the reliability of the output of these AI systems, that is where you will start to struggle. Yeah, so that is where we again need to improve that skill gap. Yeah, over reliance on kind of a small technical group can centralize power and reduce transparency, and also poorly governed insights can misdirect the entire organization. So how do we leave this? This kind of transition requires system level integration and cultural alignment. You need to integrate data across all areas. So you've got this closed loop learning system, because AI will only be able to give you information on what it has access to. So if your sales is separate from all the rest of your organization and your AI system is only hooked up to this, can't take any of this into account. So it's giving you outcomes and information only on this bit. So it's not going to be right, because we haven't given it the right stuff to be able to tell us its version of the world, because we give it access. Yeah. AI cannot assume, it cannot infer, it does not have nuance. Yeah. It only understands things by the data it was trained upon, the way that we use it, the way we prompt it, and what we give access to. Yeah. So if we're not giving it all the data it needs, it's not going to give us what we need. So strategic maturity means AI informed choices. Transformational maturity, though, where we're going to go next, means the organization continuously learns and evolves. So this is our kind of goal. Yeah. It's infrastructure now. It's a unified intelligence layer within our organization that connects data, insight, and learning across the organization, breaking down any sort of silo and creating shared visibility. Decisions are kind of created and discussed internally with real-time intelligence. And AI becomes part of the organization's and competitive advantage. It's not the finish line, though. Yeah, we don't just get there and that's done. I'm sorry. It's a sustained organizational discipline that will change and adapt as the technology becomes more accessible, less accessible, more needs for governance, less needs for governance over time. But leadership continues to strengthen that oversight. So, if I was to give you a 90-day AI roadmap of something that you can take away and do over 90 days, the reason it's over 90 days is we need to see the impact of the different steps to then move on. So, the first thing I want you to do is assess your organization's skills and gaps. So, before introducing new tools or templates, you need a clear picture of where you are today. Which teams are already experimenting? Where do confidence gaps exist? What processes break the moment you introduce AI? It doesn't need to be a long project. It's just a light check that gives you clarity to prioritize. Now, this is a key part here. Choose 2 or 3 high value workflows. I don't want you to start with a dozen different things you want to change. Start with 2 or 3 workflows that truly matter to your organization's performance. Think about repetitive tasks, research bottlenecks, reporting burdens. By focusing narrowly, we get quick wins and we build confidence over time. I then want you to start training teams using practical, job specific scenarios. Generic AI training doesn't work. Yeah. People need to understand how AI fits into their role. So create role-based scenarios, use this to summarize meetings, use this to analyze a data set, use this to plan a project. And that is how AI skills start to stick over time. You then need to think about building a simple internal AI toolkit. And what I mean by that is that every organization needs a small, curated set of prompts, workflows, and approved tools. Because I don't want individuals within your organization or yourself to not know what is expected. So think of it as like a starter pack, and it's the foundation that keeps everyone aligned. And then I want you to create governance without blocking innovation. Governance should be a seatbelt, not a stop sign. Yeah. Clear data boundaries, approved tools, human in the loop checks, and simple guidance give teams confidence to experiment safely. Do you think AI use goes on within your organization, within the teams that you work in, without the actual organization knowing at the moment? Do you think that is a thing? Do you use your own licenses to kind of do things at work? It's very normal. We need to give that level of governance, what is allowed and what isn't. Yeah. So this kind of 90-day plan can help you move from scattered experimentation to some sort of structure. Yeah. And it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap that builds momentum, creates clarity, and sets the organization up for kind of a long-term AI maturity. So we need to think about this now because our environment has changed. AI didn't arrive slow. It wasn't structured. It wasn't delivered to us in a structured program, yeah? It's accelerated into things at speed, and tools have been adopted faster than governance has matured. Workflows have been augmented before they were redesigned, and in many cases, AI was layered into fragile human hand stitched processes without clarity around accountability, data standards, or long term ownership. And we're now feeling the consequences of that imbalance. Inconsistent outputs, privacy questions, IP concerns, shadow usage, and leaders unsure how much they can rely on these systems. But at the same time, the pace of development is not slowing. At a very recent AI Trends seminar at the beginning of 2026, we saw three very big things that are set to come in. High level intelligence is rapidly becoming commoditized. And what I mean by that is that model costs are continually dropping. So access to advanced capability is standard. Yeah, it's no longer behind a paywall or knowledge. Yeah, everyone can access powerful systems. Competitive advantage will come from integration, governance, and leadership competence, not from simply having a license to ChatGPT. Geopolitics is also reshaping AI. So, deglobalization and regulatory pressure are driving demand for European digital kind of sovereignty. Organizations can no longer assume that infrastructure data flows or model dependencies will remain stable. Strategic reliance now requires intentional choices about things like data centers, partnerships, and autonomy. Yeah, that's huge. That's as well as integrating, as well as compliance. We now have to think about where our data centers sit, who are the vendors that we are choosing. Yeah. And the next is that reliability is emerging as a decisive factor. So, whether in embodied AI systems operating in physical environments or agentic workflows, 99% accuracy is what we're looking for. It's not nice to have anymore. Yeah. Without traceability, oversight, and structured design, AI systems create operational and reputational risk at scale. So we're at this kind of weird inflection point. The early kind of things up until kind of this last year was about access and experimentation. The next phase is about discipline and strategic positioning. So, if we're not being intentional about redesigning our workflows, strengthening governance, and clarifying accountability, AI will continue to kind of impact us in this very fragmented way. And fragmentation at scale is expensive. Yeah. So, we need to mature our approach now. And this will allow us to stabilize, align, reduce those skill gaps, allow those skill gaps to be present, but we can mitigate them and add in training, communication, and internal use kind of understanding. And those that kind of ignore this maturity question risk building capability on really unstable foundations. I've worked with organizations who are having to strip back tens of thousands of pounds of AI integration because the tool wasn't correct, the data wasn't good enough, and we're starting at ground zero again. And it's not worth it. Yeah. By doing these kind of basic kind of readiness checks, you can save a lot of heartache and friction in the future. AI is everywhere. It's becoming embedded in economic systems, public infrastructure, and enterprise decision making. So it's not whether we are going to engage anymore, it's how we're going to engage. So we need to lead this integration deliberately. But some things to know: naturally, as humans, AI use can make us deeply uncomfortable, which is why we often have these skill gaps and these trust gaps when it comes to this technology. The first reason is it challenges our identity. Yeah. Many of us as humans, we tie our sense of value to what we know and what we can produce. All of a sudden, these systems can draft, analyze, design, or code in seconds. It can feel like our hard earned expertise is being compressed into a prompt. And that triggers something called status anxiety. If the tool can do part of my job, what does that mean about me? So we need to, again, understand how to approach those thoughts and to explain this technology and how it doesn't replace experience or expertise. The next thing is it disrupts competence. Humans are comfortable when we understand the rules of the game, let's say. AI changes the rules very quickly. Interfaces evolve, capabilities leap forward. What felt cutting edge 6 months ago is outdated today. And that pace makes us feel unstable, and instability creates discomfort. So, as well as understanding that we need to kind of move this technology forward, we have to recognize how this technology is impacting us as humans and why these skill gaps are becoming bigger and why this kind of nervousness to integrate this technology actually exists. The third is opacity. So, traditional tools are predictable, input leads to defined output. AI systems are probabilistic. They generate responses based on patterns, not fixed logic. So when we can't clearly see how something is reaching its conclusion, trust for us becomes fragile. So how do we then integrate things in our transformational kind of level as organizations? It also raises ethical tension, questions about bias, privacy, job displacement. When technology moves faster than policy or governance, people sense that gap and that gap feels risky. Yeah. It also threatens control. AI automates tasks and support decisions, but it also shifts where authority sits. If a model influences hiring, pricing, or risk assessment, who is responsible? Yeah. We become uneasy when control becomes distributed or ambiguous. And there's also the thought of like pace of this. AI did not evolve gradually in public awareness, it surged. Yeah. Rapid change compresses adaptation time, and humans need time. We need time to metabolize this change. Yeah. And without that, even positive transformation kind of can feel destabilizing. So it's also really important to note that AI creates discomfort. Yeah. Because it touches identity, competence, control, fairness, and certainty. And these are the foundations of psychological security. So you can all of a sudden start to see why these gaps exist and why we are nervous to try and fill these gaps in understanding and skills. But we're going to have to. We're going to have to take this knowledge and understand this and actually begin to close those gaps. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a signal that something meaningful is shifting because we have these kind of inert responses, and the organizations that navigate this well should not ignore that unease. So I always feel it's important that I talk about how great this technology is, but we are humans. Yeah. So we have to understand why or how to mitigate our natural responses to this type of technology. So just so you know, we do have the AI exchange, which is every 2 weeks. And we also have a free Slack channel that you can join where we talk about all sorts of AI and kind of what is going on in the world and what people are experiencing. There are some great humans in there to kind of bounce ideas off. But thank you. Have you got any questions for me? I think I got all the questions that kind of came out during the kind of talk.
Yeah, I think you did. But if
Amazing.
anyone has any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat, or the Q&A function as well. Um, But so far, no. But and if that's the case, that's absolutely okay. Thank you so much, Robin. That was really interesting, and I think there may be no questions because that was also really clear. So,
Oh, good.
and
Yeah,
really good to
that's a really
grasp.
positive.
Yeah, absolutely. But in that case, then we'll send out the presentation to you all in the next few days. You can also find our inquiries email address that I put in the chat. And if you do want more information about the technology-based courses that we do offer, then please do get in touch. We're more than happy to help. You can find the link in the to the website for both the technology courses, the AI short courses that we offer, and also the OXP AI exchange as well in the chat. But I think that's everything for today. Thank you so much for joining. We hope you enjoyed it, and hope you found it interesting, and hopefully we'll hear from some of you soon. And again, thank you so much, Robin.
Oh, it was a true pleasure, and I hope to see some of you in the session on Friday. That'll be really fun. I get to start the week and end the
Perfect.
week with some of you.
It's the best way to start it. It's the best way to start it.
But
But
thank
yeah,
you so much. It was a
perfect.
pleasure.
Absolutely no worries. Thank you so much, Robin. That actually was, yeah, genuinely quite interesting. I've had the fortunate pleasure of also taking the CIM AI in marketing with you. So, because of that, yeah. But these sort of sessions are really good for sort of topping up that knowledge.
Oh, it's something that's changing every other day. So
Yeah.
we need somewhere to stay up to date, I think.
No, for sure, 100%.
Okay, well, enjoy the
But
rest of the development.